guys, welcome back to my channel. Sorry if there's a bit of a random video. Anyway, I promised that I'm going to share my presentation with you, so I thought I might as well, because you know what happened? I done my presentation, and number one, we found out that we're doing it next week instead of this week, and also they told me that it's too long. Like, my teacher told me that it's too long and I should have like about 4 or 5 different bullet points and that's it. And the reason why we didn't do it on like this week, but the reason why we didn't do it this week is because nobody else did it. Like, welcome to adult learning, but anyway, and so basically we're doing it next week because there's like a whole world of people like, oh, I didn't know what to write, or I didn't know what to do it on. And it's just like, think of something. Anyway, so I'm going to share with you my presentation. And yes, I typed it up, and yes, it's a bit long, but bear with me. It's very interesting. Anyway, I named it "Why I Feel Mandela Effects are Evidence That We Are Living in a Simulation." Alright. 1 second. I feel Mandela effects are proof that we are living in a simulation. But before I can get into that, I would like to explain to you what a Mandela effect is. On December 5th, 2013, the world was baffled. The reason why is because it was announced that Nelson Mandela had died. The world was so confused that all the world leaders travelled to South Africa for a meeting. The topic of the meeting was never disclosed. However, it did not take a genius to work out what the meeting was about. Now you may ask why the world was so baffled. This is because we thought, including me, that Nelson Mandela had died in prison in the 80s. I was even taught that in primary school. And so I was just as baffled just like the rest of the world. How can millions of people remember the same thing that isn't true? This is why it was named a Mandela effect. These are called false memories, but it still doesn't explain why a huge amount of the world's population remembers the same thing. This was the beginning of an unravelling because it was discovered other things that the world remembers but is not quite true. For example, in the classic song "We Are the World" by Queen, everyone remembers "of the world" at the end of the song. But if you go back to the original song, Freddie Mercury does not say at the end of the song "and the world." Another example of a Mandela effect is we all remember the evil queen in Snow White saying "mirror, mirror on the wall." It is even on Disney merchandise. However, if you watch the original classic animated 1937 Disney movie, you will see the queen says "magic mirror on the wall." Another example of that is we all remember the Monopoly board, and the Monopoly man is wearing a monocle over one eye. Well, if you look again, there is no monocle. The rabbit hole goes a lot deeper. Curious George does not have a tail, even though we all remember him having one. Sinbad the rapper never played a genie in the children's movie called Shazam, even though we all remember seeing the movie. If you are still not convinced, then I must ask you a historical question. The sad day that President JFK was assassinated, were there 4 people in his car or were there 6 people? If you look at the pictures again, you will see there are 6 people in JFK's car, not 4. When you think of the Twin Towers, do you remember a hotel sitting between them? Neither do I. In the media and pretty much everywhere, you just see 2 towers, and even on the day that there was no mention of the hotel. But it was there. I was also shocked to find out that Madagascar is not in Africa, even though in geography we are taught that it was. Even in the DreamWorks movie Madagascar, Marty the zebra often says they are in Africa when in fact they are in Madagascar, which is a small island next to Africa. But it is not in or part of Africa. So why do we all remember things that are not true? The part of our brain that controls our memory is our temporal lobe, which is called the hippocampus. And unless we are all being hit on the side of our heads with a baseball bat, there seems to be no explanation as to why we all have false memories. I personally believe we are living in a simulation. We are living in a highly technical world that is fastly growing, and we are copies. We're finding out more and more about our planet, and we're using technology to discover that there's how many galaxies and Milky Ways there actually are. There are other worlds similar to ours, and every so often there are glitches in the matrix, and those are the times that we see the cracks in our world. In a world full of technology and CCTV cameras at every corner, forensics can identify a skeleton that has lived 100 years ago, and yet, with all our cameras and technology, we cannot find people who have gone missing. When I say missing, I don't mean missing as in just gone for a while. I mean missing without a trace. For example, on the 6th of July 1992, in America, a mother and her teenage daughter and her teenage daughter's friend went missing. They were labelled the Springfield Three. Their names were Cheryl E. Levitt, Suzanne E. Streeter, and Stacey K. McCall. They went missing without a trace, and they were never seen again. On the 3rd of May 2007, while on holiday with her family in Portugal, 3-year-old Madeline Mccann went missing without a trace and was never seen again. On the 30th of June 2014, a German man named Lars Mittank was on holiday with his friends in Bulgaria. He went missing without a trace and was never seen again. Sadly, these are not the only bizarre disappearances. So my question is, with all the technology and cameras, police and FBI, how can people disappear for years on end and never be found again? I think there is an explanation, and sadly it is to do with foul play, but I don't think that is always the case. I believe there are several portals on this planet that takes us from one dimension to the next. We already know the name of one of the portals, the Bermuda Triangle. Planes that have flown over near or close to the Bermuda Triangle has vanished. Boats and even ships has disappeared, and as soon as they enter the Bermuda Triangle, they're gone. I watched a documentary the other day about rogue waves. These huge walls of water that we call rogue waves or monster waves are completely unpredictable, and science has proven that a rogue wave can come from anywhere, at any time, in any place. There have been many ships and even helicopters that has vanished due to the bottom of the ocean because of these spontaneous waves that can go up to 150 feet tall and crash down on a ship with the force of a high-rise building dropping on top of you. A survivor on the documentary said, the weather was good and the water was normal 1 minute, and then the next minute a huge wall of water rose and crashed on top of his ship, leaving his ship with a huge hole big enough for a small boat to sail through. Several people died on the boat that day, and he even said as soon as the water crashed down on the ocean looked like nothing had happened. It made no sense. My theory is that what is happening in another dimension is manifesting itself into our world. For example, let's say there's a man named Tim. Tim is totally sane. he has been sane all his life. No history of mental illness. He's a lawyer. In his spare time, he likes to play PlayStation, go for a beer with his mates, and order pizza in time for when he watches the football. Then one day he meets a woman called Tina. He feels an instant connection to her. She isn't interested in him, but he won't leave her alone. He becomes obsessed and even turns into a stalker. Tim believes and is convinced that Tina is meant to be his wife. Tina doesn't know Tim and is by now creeped out by his behaviour because in her mind she doesn't know this man. What if Tim isn't crazy? What if in another world Tim is actually married to Tina and it is manifesting into this world? Tim feels it because in the other world he loves Tina more than Tina loves him. Imagine if the stalker is not actually crazy. He just has a strong spiritual sense that Tina is supposed to be in his life. It's kind of like when you have a dream that feels so real, but in the dream you are in a place that you have never been, or speaking a language you don't know how to speak in real life, or you're with people you have never met. I believe the reason for the strange disappearances, the Mandela effects and all the bizarrity is that there are other worlds and there are carbon copies of ourselves in other dimensions. If you search up the Garden of Eden, there is no clear location because it has never been found. Some people may say it's in Africa or in Eastern Europe, but it has never been found, even though that is where life started in the Bible. All the other places in the Bible have been located except the Garden of Eden. I have a theory. I don't actually think the Garden of Eden was ever on earth. God banished Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden and sent them to suffer in a world of pain and misery. There is a planet that was discovered on the 23rd of July 2015, and this planet is 1,402 light years away. This planet is identical to the Earth. It is our twin planet. The only difference is that it is double the size of our planet. But other than that, it is identical to our Earth. The name of this planet is Kepler 254b, and I think that is the other dimension. I believe that was where the Garden of Eden is. Some people say heaven on earth and some people say hell on earth. I think Kepler 254b was supposed to be our earth, the heaven on earth God handed to us. But Adam and Eve was banished from the Garden of Eden and brought here to what I refer to as the first ring of hell. Earth can be a wonderful place, but it is also a dark place with murder, corruption and poverty. Earth is a place of destruction, and that is why I believe it is hell on earth. But who is to say a connection wasn't made between Earth and Kepler 254b, a mirror Earth? What if Tim does have a wife called Tina in another world? What if Nelson Mandela did die in prison in the 1980s in another world? What if missing people we are looking for entered a portal and ended up in a different dimension? What if every time there is a rogue wave on our planet, there is a tsunami in another world? What if the rapper Sinbad really did make a movie called Shazam, where he played the role of a genie? People say that everyone has a double, but how often do you see your double? When I say a double, I don't mean someone who looks just like you, but I mean someone who looks exactly like you. Some may say it's how uncanny how alike the two of you look, like the same exact person, closer in resemblance than identical twins could ever be. This is called a doppelganger. It was said the day President Lincoln was assassinated, he looked in the mirror and saw not only his reflection, but his doppelganger standing next to him. The only difference is that his doppelganger was pale in complexion, as if he was already dead. And sadly that day, President Lincoln was murdered. There have been several cases like this where people have seen their doppelgangers. It is considered to be a bad omen to see your doppelganger, but the mystery is, how did they get here? If there is a portal that can take us to different dimensions, then I believe people from that dimension can enter the portal from their planet and enter ours. Either way, this world is way more mysterious than you or I could ever imagine. I hope you liked this video. Like, comment and subscribe, do all the nice things, share, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.
Bye.